Today we are going to create some light painting images, and I'm going to show you how to use our light painting assignment criteria worksheet, how to use this effectively so that you can edit your light painting images. Okay, so first what you want to do is you want to pick two images that you're going to be editing. This project is going to take you on a journey of experimentation. You will be using at least 5 out of the 9 tools that are listed on this criteria worksheet. As I scroll through, you'll see that there are different tools that I'm listing here, and I'm showing different various examples of how they work until you get to the very end. So you will be picking 5 out of 9 tools to be used on your project, and 3 of them are required. And the 3 that are required, besides processing your raw image, everyone will process their raw images. The first tool that's required is a layer mask using opacity, and the third and final tool that's required is using some type of blending mode. All right, so let's get started. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go get our light painting images in our P drive. We're going to come over here to File, Open. We're going to go to the computer. We're going to go here to the P drive, into our period folder. We're going to come over here to Light Paint, and we're going to click on Raw Images, and then you're going to go to the group that you were in, and you are going to click on the raw image, not the JPEG, okay? The JPEG image, you can clearly see what it looks like. You're going to click on the image next to it with the same number, okay? It's a CR2 file, and it has like a little flower icon. If it doesn't have a flower icon, it'll be an image that does not come up for you. It'll just be next to a JPEG image. You won't be able to see what this image looks like. So then you're going to go and you're going to click on Open. When you click on Open, it brings up this raw file here. And today we are going to focus on certain tools along this right side over here. First, what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the temperature. And we want to make this a little warmer, just slightly. And we might want to adjust the tint. We can go more yellow or we can go more red. Just going to keep it a little bit warmer. And now we want to adjust our exposure. Now, you will find that you probably will need to raw process your image more than once, because right now the L wire in this background is very blown out, it's very bright, and we want to bring the exposure down a little bit. But if we do that, our model is going to become very dark, and that's not good. We don't want to have our silhouette of a model here. We actually want to be able to see our model eventually. So what we're going to do right now is we're just going to process just for the L wire in the background. And then I'm going to skip the contrast and the highlights and the shadows for now and the whites. I'm going to come over here to black, and I'm going to bring my black down. I want to have some nice black tones in there. I'm going to bring my clarity up a little bit, and I'm going to bring my vibrance up and my saturation up just a tad bit. Now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to add a little bit of contrast, go up slightly. I don't want to have any more highlights, so I want to bring my highlights down. My shadows, bring the shadows down slightly. And my whites, no, I don't really need to do anything. So now my L wire is not blown out so badly as it was. I'm going to go ahead and open this image. So now I have an image that is exposed for the L wire, but I need to do an image that's also exposed for my 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 model. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in and I'm going to open the same image that I just opened. But this time I'm going to adjust the exposure up for my model. So I'm not going to worry about the L wire. It's totally going to be blown out and very bright. I'm just going to bring the exposure up for my model. I'm going to bring my blacks down a little bit and look at my model here. She looks a lot better. I can actually see some of the highlights on her face. So I'm going to go ahead and open this. All right, so now I'm going to show you how to use tool number 1, which is called layer masks. We're going to do a file. We're going to come up here, we're going to click on select all, and we're going to select the entire image, edit, copy, and come back over here to this image, and we're going to do an edit, paste, or a control V. Now I'm going to go ahead and add a layer mask, which is right down here at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and add a layer mask to my layer 1 here. And I'm going to come over here, grab my paintbrush tool. Gonna make sure I have a nice soft paintbrush and maybe make it slightly smaller, about 2000. 1800 to 2000 is fine. And then make sure my black is over white. I'm going to make sure my mask is selected. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the bright L wire. And you'll notice that my mask over here is turning black because what it's doing is revealing the layer underneath. All right. I'm going to go in with a little bit of a smaller brush using my bracket tool on my toolbar, and I'm going to kind of go around this edge here and just make sure that my model looks pretty good here. All right. Great. So we can see it here. It's kind of like a white silhouette against the black here. So that's using a layer mask. That's required for option number 1. And option number 2 then is an opacity. So oftentimes it's very interesting to add textures to our images. So I'm going to go to File, Open, and in my P drive, I happen to have a folder in there, in my Photo Demo Example folder, Textures. I have a folder in there with a bunch of different types of textures. Now, you don't have to just use these. You can find as many textures as you want to use. I'm going to go ahead and open up my, what I think is kind of like a blood vessel. So I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to do a select all, edit, copy, and I'm going to come back to my image and I'm going to paste it on. And it's a different file format, so I'm going to say OK. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to move it by clicking on my move tool. I'm going to move it here, and I make sure my show transform controls is selected, and I'm going to stretch this over the whole entire image. And then I'm going to, this is now layer number 2. I'm going to set that by check marking it here. And I'm going to adjust the opacity down to about 47%. And now you can see that blood vessel coming through the image. And if we come over here to our directions, you can see here I processed my images twice. And I added my layer mask to blend those two images together. And now on opacity number 2 here, on number 2 for opacity, you can see the image is here, and you can see the blood vessel coming through. But we're not totally done with this. We're going to move on to our blending mode, okay? So I played around with this. And what I did was I clicked on my blending mode, which is right here, and if you click on it, you can kind of click through them. And I found that divide had the most interesting effect because it turned green. So I'm going to go to divide. There we go. And I really like the way this shows up on her skin, the way the green and the yellow play together. So I decided to keep this. And what I did, so this is for number 3, blending modes, is I added a layer mask to this by clicking on this right down here. And I clicked on my layer mask, and I came over and used my brush tool. And I made sure my black is over white, and I'm going to use a little bit of a bigger brush here using my bracket tool. I'm going to make this brush a little bigger. And I took the green off of the light and just left a little bit of green on my subject. And on her face and on her torso here. Okay. Okay, so now it's time to combine multiple images. That's number 4. Now this is optional. This is one of the tools that you can add. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to open another texture. It's kind of a wall texture. I'm going to go ahead and open that up. And I'm going to select it all, and I'm going to edit copy and come back to my image. I'm going to edit paste. Again, I have to change it a little bit here so that it will work with my image. And then I'm going to bring it up to the left corner again using my moving tool. My show transform controls is turned on. I'm going to stretch this over so that this kind of yellow blotch is kind of in the center. And I'm going to click check mark to place it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a blending mode of color burn. So I'm going to just select color burn. And I'm also going to adjust the opacity to 45%. Okay, so I just typed in 45%. And again, I'm going to add a layer mask to this because I just want to have this kind of wall texture on the top of the image a little bit. So I'm going to click on my layer mask and I'm going to use my brush tool again. And I'm going to remove that texture from the bottom part of the image so that I have just kind of like these little red blotches along the top. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I am going to go to tool number 5, okay? So here's tool 4, combine multiple images. I added in like this wall texture, which is another image. And now I also have another example here that I can show you how that's done later. And then I have number 5, which is adding in a solid color. You can use it to create a vignette, or you can use it to add more color to the image. So if you look at the top example here, this is adding in just a black vignette. And if you look at the bottom example, we're adding in a red solid color. And it's mostly impacting the top of the image. So let's come over here and we're going to click on our solid color and we're going to go red. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust my opacity to 29%. And then I'm going to do a soft light blending mode. I'm going to click on my layer mask, go back in with my brush, black over white, and I'm going to remove the red from the bottom part of this image and only keep it on the top. I'm also noticing a shoe here on the left, so I'm going to go ahead and add in a black solid color as well, so the black vignette. to get rid of that shoe I see on the left side. All right, so now I'm going to click on my vignette here, and I'm going to remove the black just from the areas that I don't want to be black. I'm going to hide that shoe that's there on the left side. Okay, so now if I turn off my vignette over here, you can see on the left there's a little bit of a shoe just right here on the left side. Okay, but now when I turn my vignette on, it hides that shoe. All right, so now I'm going to show you tool number 6, which is creating a new fill or adjustment layer. And what I'm going to do for this is actually add in a black and white layer, and I'm going to make the edges black and white, but the center color. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to add in a black and white layer. Okay, and I'm going to click on my layer mask because I don't want this image to be black and white. I only want just a little bit of the edges to be black and white. So I'm going to remove the black and white from the center, and I'm just leaving the edges only in black and white. So I need to let my computer think a little bit, because I can see that now my layer mask is fully selected here, and I got this big circle black in the center with a little bit of white along the edges, and you can see that my color kind of goes black and white a little bit along the edges. Now I'm going to make them a little more black and white by changing my foreground and background color to be white over black, and I'm going to add just a little more black and white along these edges here. All right, there we go. And you'll see that there's another example here. So number 6 is creating a new fill or adjustment layer in which I added the black and white. And then below here, I also show you another example, which I'll show you later. Okay, so the next step, number 7, is using liquify. So I'm going to liquify layer number 1. Okay, going to click on layer number 1, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to slightly manipulate the center design on her torso. So I'm going to click on layer 1. I'm going to come up here to filter, liquify. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the twirling tool, and it's going to be fairly large, and I'm going to twirl the center design a little bit, so it looks kind of like it's turning. And I'm going to say OK. And okay, that did a little bit too much, so I'm going to go back on my history and I'm going to undo that. Okay, so let's go back to my liquify. See, that's great. You can always undo it if you don't like the way it looks. I think I had a smaller brush I was using, and I'm going to go a little slower here. Okay, so I'm going to make sure this completely is done. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to just double check this. Okay, there we go. So if we go back on the history now, that's before and that's after. So I've just kind of twirled it a little bit, and you can see how it's kind of twirling. There's quite a bit of a difference, and it looks pretty interesting, but it's subtle and it's not overdone, and that's really important. All right, so now I'm going to show you how to duplicate layers. I'm going to go ahead and turn this image off, just close it out. And I'm going to close this out, close this out, close this out, and I'm going to open up a whole new file. I'm going to go to my P drive. And I'm going to select an image that, okay, that's the wrong group. Let's Okay, so I've got the right group now. So I'm going to open up an image. And what I'm going to do is show you how to duplicate this image. I'm not going to worry about raw processing right now, but you will be. So I'm going to show you how you can take an image and duplicate it. You're going to right click on this. So we're going to duplicate the image. And what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the opacity to 50%. Okay. Okay. 50%. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is come over here to Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal. And now we have a mirror image. If I crop in really close, you can see how this is a mirror image. You got this kind of going to the right and this going to the left. You have a mirror image. It's very interesting how you can do that with these designs, okay? So that is one way to duplicate an image and use it. That would be for number 8, okay? That is just one way to do it. All right, so we're gonna go open up another image from the same file. It's kind of a red swirl. We're going to turn that red swirl into something different, but I'm gonna go ahead and open it up, and I adjusted the exposure up on this a lot higher so we could see it. I'm gonna go ahead and open it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my marquee tool, which is right here, a little square box, to just select this shape here, and I'm going to go to Edit, Copy, and I'm going to come over here to this image and go Edit, Paste. And now I'm going to use my Move tool to adjust this image, but I'm going to also adjust my opacity down to 70% for now, okay? And I just want to adjust this so that it fits over. If I go Control minus, I can zoom out, and I'm going to fit this swirl over my design so that my design underneath shows up, okay? So you can see I'm kind of moving it and fitting it over my design. Going to nudge it and zoom in a little closer. So there we go. And I'm going to check mark it here. And I am now going to go to Image Adjustments. I'm going to go to my Hue Saturation. And I'm going to make this kind of more of a blue tone, kind of a blue-green kind of tone, okay? And what I'm going to also do is change my blend mode on my swirl to screen, which is now making my design underneath come forward a little better, because before it was pretty dark. So now I want to show you how this on pause for a second. I want to show you how you can also duplicate layer 1, which is our green swirl here. So this would be a number 8 example, duplicating layers. So we would duplicate that layer, and we would adjust that to 27% opacity so that it's a little bit lighter than the top one. And then we will change the blending mode to linear light. And then what we're going to do is we're going to move that image down a little bit so that it's kind of off center. It's not okay. And we're going to have it be slightly off center. And now I'm going to show you how to use tool number 9, which is a gradient tool. Tool number 9, so if we come over here to our directions, I showed you how to duplicate layers and how to use them a couple different times, but you'll notice that there's kind of like this sparkly kind of color on here. That is done with our gradient tool. So I'm going to show you how to use the gradient tool here on number 9. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the top here, and we're going to come down here to our adjustment layers, and we're going to select gradient right here, and we're going to click on this little arrow, and we're going to select this rainbow pattern here, and we are going to change the blending mode to dissolve on this gradient, and we're going to adjust the opacity down to like 12%. It's very low. Okay, and we're going to click on our layer mask here, and we're going to click on our brush tool, and we're going to make sure that the black is over white, and we're going to remove this dissolve from our center design. We don't want that impacting our center design at all. Okay, so we're going to take off this kind of dissolve, which when it hits and is against the green swirl design that kind of acts almost like a border here in the center, it looks almost like it has sparkles. Now, I still feel like my red design in the center is a little bit dark, so I'm going to come up to option number, I believe it's number 6, where you add an adjustment layer. Let me double check that. I think it's option, yes, it's option number 6, where you add an adjustment layer. I'm going to go ahead and above just this background copy here, I'm going to click on that because I only want to lighten my background copy in my background. That's it. And I'm going to click on my adjustment layer, and I'm going to add a brightness and contrast layer. So here it is above my background copy, and I'm going to add a little bit of brightness so that my red design in the center stands out a little more. Maybe add a little bit of contrast. There we go. And again, I'm looking at my dissolve. I still have a little bit of dissolve dots I want to take off of here, so I'm just going to remove those dissolve dots here so they're not touching my red design at all. All right, and there we go. I've just demonstrated all the different tools and how you can use them. You're going to experiment with them and have fun.